So please try reading. Okay, you're busy. Okay, no problem. But just try it. When you do, hopefully by Wednesday I'll ask. By Wednesday I'll ask. Who else again? Who else again? Who else again? Okay, yeah, Chukudi. Okay, listening over 40. You got 30 over 40 and 30 over 40. Good. Good. How about reading? How about reading? You should have done reading now. I'm waiting for reading too. The scores are good, but you need to actually put in more effort to have a 35. Okay, Tolani, good. For listening, I had 26 over 40, 30 over 40, then 34 over 40. Um, Madam Chukwudi, do you mean reading is 29 over 40? Okay, so let me have others. I'm still waiting. Probably you want me to call names. What of okay, the first call for listening. Okay, no problem. The first call for listening. How about Rita? Rita, where are you? Rita? Okay, you have to be done with reading, I guess. Where is Rita? Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. Read one. That's good. Yeah, that's reading. Abi, yes, I guess as much that it was reading you meant to type. Okay. Okay, so read one said there was another listening I did before the weekend, 37 over 40. Beautiful. Beautiful. Um, okay, I keep fluctuating. Though no problem. You just make sure you review those ones you failed. I think about three. Those three you failed, just try to review them. Concentration sometimes, yeah, just try to pay attention. All right. You know, I explained it in class, the aspect of absent-mindedness. So you need to pay more attention. Okay. Any other person again? Send me your review. Rita Rosemary, where is she? She Edozie. I know those ones that are very active in my class. She Edozie, what's your score? Who else again? Yes, Faith, the active students in my class. Faith, Faith, what's your score? Hmm? All right. So, okay, I have a new message. Okay, Faith, you haven't done reading yet. How about your listening? Have you shared with me? Said, okay, I had an issue with some pronunciation. I couldn't hear it clearly. You know, when I was teaching listening, I said you could actually pay attention to English podcasts. You understand? Okay, you've already shared it. Okay, okay, that's good. Dozie was unable to finish it. Was able to finish it tomorrow. I will. Okay. All right, no problem. So once you finish it, because I'll keep asking this way to be sure. This is a way of trying to, you know, Bolaji's iPhone, please. Those people should be muted. Okay. I prefer they just send a text instead of speaking. They should be muted, please, so that we can have a peaceful class. All right. So, like I said, today, okay, I was hospitalized since Wednesday last week and feel lost right now. Where do I pick up from? Don't worry, you pick up from this writing. Hmm? You pick up from this writing. Then Later, you can now review listening and reading. I would suggest that you reach out to read one. Or since this particular platform is recorded, the Zoom, so you can re-listen to it later. You can re-listen to it later. All right, so I think that's all. Let's move on. I'll keep asking this way so that we don't feel relaxed. I won't just be teaching and you're not practicing. My own part is to, share the knowledge and then you would practice. So I have to be checking to be sure that you're doing the right thing. Okay, so let's start. Let's start. Let's start. Let me stop this sharing and share the material for writing. Just a minute, please. Just a minute. I want to share the material for. All right, so I'm sharing my screen right away. All right, so let's start. What is writing? What is writing? Now, writing is ability to express, the ability to express or communicate ideas. I hope you're writing. Have your notebook, have your pen, so you'll be able to write this down. So writing is the ability to express or communicate ideas, thoughts, feelings, and opinions. Ability to communicate ideas, thoughts, feelings, and opinions in either formal for or informal reason, either for formal or informal reason. Let me take that again. So I said writing is the ability to express or communicate ideas, thoughts, feelings, and opinions. All right. In either in a written form, in written form, in either informal setting, a formal or informal setting. Okay. And then
The network is bad.
can you hear me very well? Can you hear me now?
Oh,
All right, all right, let's continue. So I've been able to define what writing is. Okay. I've been able to define what writing is. So let's continue. Let's start part of the IELTS writing. So for the part of the IELTS writing, remember that there's a difference in academic writing and general training writing. There's a difference in both of them. Okay. So in academic writing, there is tax one and tax two. And the tax one of academic writing is diagram interpretation, while the tax two is essay writing. But for general training writing, the tax one is letter writing, which can either be formal letter or an informal letter. While for tax two of general training, the tax two is always what? Is always an essay writing. So both tax one and tax two, for both formal and informal letter, they will have essay writing. But there will be a difference. There will be a difference in tax one. There will be a difference in tax one for both academic and general training students. There will be a difference. For example, like I mentioned earlier, an academic student will attempt a diagram interpretation, just as the one I'm sharing on my screen, while a general training student will do letter writing. I'm going to share my screen letter writing when I get to that. Okay, I will share my screen when I get to that. Okay, so in the IELTS writing, there are two tasks. There are two tasks. There is tax one and there's also tax two. For both academic and general, there are two tasks. Now, let me start with the academic. Okay, let me look at academic. I'm sure now we know what academic is and the purpose of it is basically for studies or schooling. So in this case now, in academic writing, your tax one will be diagram interpretation. So examiner will give you 20 minutes, 20 minutes, all right, to answer the question. 20 minutes to write at least 150 words. So your length of words in tax one is 150 words. Please, can this person be muted to talking? So your length of words in tax one is 150 words. So even when you exceed 150 words, please do not exceed 180 words. Remember, you're meant to write at least. That means the minimum you're supposed to write is 150 words. So even when you exceed it, remember not to exceed 180 words. Very important. Now, what are the examples of diagrams that you're likely to interpret? The first one, okay, so you'll be given one actually, but let me make a list of them so that anyone that comes out, then you'll be aware. First one, pie charts. How do you read pie chart? It's circular in nature and it has different sectors. Okay, it's different sector. That's different sectors. Just as the one I'm sharing on my screen, that's pie charts. On exam day, you may be given two pie charts. You may be pie charts, okay, to interpret. And in a case where you're giving pie charts, all right, they would have the same features. They will have the same features. What do I mean? They will have the same features. Let me show you an example. Let me bold it this so that we see very well. I hope you can see it well. You can see they have the same features. For example, you have water heating, heating and heating, refrigeration and refrigeration, other appliances. So any feature you're seeing on the Australian household energy use, you must also find the same feature under Australian household greenhouse gas emission. They would have the same features. Nothing is changing. Exactly the same features. As you're seeing cooling in the first chart, you would also be seeing cooling in the second chart. As you're seeing lighting in the first chart, you would also be seeing lighting in the second chart. So all you expect to do is you're interpreting in the first chart, you would also interpret cooling in the second chart on the same sentence in the same line. Now, if that is done, if that is done, see, I'm sure now we know what a pie chart is. Okay, we know what a pie chart is. The next one You may be given a table to interpret a table. Of course, a table will have rows and column, okay, the way it is arranged. Now, if you're given a table to interpret as an academic student, what you just need to do is what? Put in writing the diagram, what you can observe in the diagram, put it in writing. Everything demonstrated in the diagram, put it in writing. That's just what the examiner wants. I'm going to still give you guidelines or strategies on how to do it. Now, next one is bar charts. Okay? There's a difference between bar chart and histogram. Now, for bar charts, okay, there are spaces between the rectangular bars. But for histogram, there are usually no spaces between the rectangular bars. There are usually no spaces between the rectangular bars. Okay? So that's usually how it is. That's usually how it is. There's usually no spaces between the rectangular bars. So it's either you see a bar chart or you see histogram. The reason you need to know most of these diagrams by name so that when you're reporting it, you're able to report accurately. You're able to report accurately. Another one, you may come across line graph. I hope we know line graph, whereby the lines will intersect. Okay, you have the vertical, which is the y-axis, horizontal, the x-axis. Okay, and then there will be a movement of the lines. And at some point the lines will intersect. So I hope you know line graphs very, very well. So that would also happen too. You will see a line graph. Now the last one is process. Process. Okay. Process. How to convert something from one particular process to another. You understand? So examiner will use arrows to portray, for example, how to produce a cement. The very beginning of how to produce a cement. You see that it will go through, you see the arrows, it will move from one step to another, one process to another, okay, from one stage to another stage. So you would have to explain the process in written words. In summary, I've mentioned that you'll be given one, I'm certain that you'll be given one of these diagrams, okay? Um, Pie charts, table, bar charts, histogram, line graph, process. Any of these will definitely come out. And this is just the format. It change. You will find any of this. You will actually meet any of this that I've mentioned. Okay. Now let's look at the strategies. Okay, let's look at the strategies. I would like you to pay attention here. Now, concerning the strategy, ensure you're writing this down. The first thing you do is this. You need to paraphrase the topic. That's the first thing you do. Any particular diagram you're given, ensure to paraphrase the topic. Now, many of us might be thinking, what is paraphrasing? Now, to paraphrase simply means try as much as possible to use your own word, okay, such that um, it will mean the same thing as the original word given. Use your own words, use your own vocabulary, okay? Not don't repeat word for word the same way it appears here. No, make a tweak, make a switch of the vocabulary. Use your own vocabulary such that it will mean the same as the original word. That's exactly what it is. You can decide to paraphrase a longer expression, such as a phrase. That's still okay. But ensure you paraphrase. That's the first thing to do. Paraphrase the topic. And I'm going to use this as an example. Let me read the normal topic, then after which I'll paraphrase. Okay. Now, as it is written here, you have the first chart below. The first chart below that is talking about this Australian household energy use. That's what it's referring to. Okay. So the first chart below shows how energy is used in an average Australian household. All right. That's talking about this first chart, this first pie chart. Now, let's continue. The second chart shows the greenhouse gas emission which results from this energy use. Okay, that's talking about the second one. Let me show you the second one. Can you see the second one? This is the second one. I'm trying to use my cursor to hover over it. I'm using my cursor to highlight it. This is the second one that is referring to. Now, like I said, the first thing to do is to paraphrase the topic. I've just read the topic now. I've read it. So let's paraphrase together. So if I'm to write in my notebook, for example, this is what I will have. I will say the pie charts. Can you see that I'm using the specific name? That's why it's very important for you to know the name of the diagram. It's necessary for you to know the name of the diagram so that when you're paraphrasing, you'll be able to use the exact name. And because there are two, I'm making the word plural. The pie charts. The pie charts below, okay? I've paraphrased that one. Let me paraphrase another one again. This shows, I'll paraphrase it to illustrate. And you know that the subject is plural, the pie chart is plural, without an S at the end. So what I have is, I hope you're also writing it down the way I'm saying it. If you're very fast, you should be able to capture it. Now, the pie charts illustrate how I will paraphrase this energy. I'll use another synonym for energy. I'll change it to power. How power is, I'll change this used, USED, I'll change this used to consume. How power is consumed, okay? But remember that when you're paraphrasing, there are some key words or key terms that you don't paraphrase. For example, this average Australian household, I cannot paraphrase it because is a key word that is very, very important for meaning. I can't change it to something else. All right. So let me repeat that first one. I said the pie charts illustrates how power is consumed in an average Australian household. Okay. So in this case, I don't have to use second chart. I'll just say and the greenhouse gas emission, because this is also another keyword again. This greenhouse gas emission is another keyword again. Paraphrase it. So the greenhouse gas emission, which results from this consume. All right. So as you're able to write that, you would realize how I'm able to paraphrase. I've done the paraphrasing of the topic. Okay. I've done the paraphrasing of the topic. Now, if you have paraphrased, which is the first under the strategy on how to answer tax one academic writing. Tax one academic writing. I'm sharing the strategies now. Number two, the second strategy. If you have paraphrased already, the next thing you're supposed to do, is you will now show an overview, give an overview. That's the second thing to do. Provide an overview. What is an overview? You're trying to give a basic summary of what these two pie charts are. What is happening? What do you think is happening? Provide a summary. You understand? So in that case, you can use a transition when you're starting the overview. Use a tradition such as, in general, there are energy consumptions in two different households. If you don't want to use energy, you can continue with power. You can say that overall or in general, anyone is fine. Overall, okay, there are power consumptions in two different households, or you can paraphrase as overall, there is an intermittent or fluctuating power consumptions in two different households, respectively, two different households, full stop. Then you can name this power consumption heating, water heating, refrigeration, cooling, lighting, and other appliances. So these are all items that are consuming, or all products that are consuming energy in these two different households. So provide a summary. That's the next thing to do. Okay. So in that case, you can say, in general, there is an intermittent power consumption of lighting, water lighting, refrigeration, cooling, lighting, other appliances in two different households, such as average Australian household and greenhouse gas emission, respectively. Full stop. You have given an overview. You have given an overview. Now, after providing the overview, okay, there's another thing you're expected to do, the third step. Okay, the third step. So here, the third step you need to do is you now need to report the main features. You need to report the main features of the diagram. What I mean by reporting the main features of the diagram is all these features, you need to report them one after another. You need to report them one after another. All these features you're seeing, you need to report them one after another. And I've previously explained that while you're reporting heating, okay, you also need to report the same way heating occurred in greenhouse gas emission. If you're reporting water heating in Australia household, you also report water heating in greenhouse gas emission. If you're reporting refrigeration in greenhouse gas in Australia household, you also need to report refrigeration in greenhouse gas emission the same way, like that. Okay. And after reporting all these features, okay, and then you're not able to meet up to 150 words, then there will be need for you to show comparison. There will be need for you to show comparison. That's why look at the question. The main question here is asking you that you summarize the information. Can you see that? Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features. Can you see? And make comparison where necessary. So you need to report the main features. And after reporting, and then the length of word is not up to 150, then you can actually, show comparison. Now, let's look at the reporting of the main features. So if you're reporting, remember that they will come in sentences. They will come, so you can say that
What?
it is observed. Please mute this person so that it doesn't distract. Can you just mute everyone
Don't look you.
so that they don't distract?
Don't. Yeah, I think him for like six I'm playing.
Can this person be muted, please? This Michael Sheung is distracting us. Mhm. The person assisting us, Obembe meetings assistant, please, is it possible to mute? Just try to mute everyone. You understand? That's why most times if I need them to ask any question, I just prefer they type it so that the noise will not distract us. So that I won't have to re-explain anything. Now, okay,
Yeah, but don't worry, come at me.
this person is delaying us now. Can he be muted?
Every time I always saying, yes, the money kiss while I smoke play. Ọmọ mi kọ́ mi kì í yàrá. Dani,
Michael Sheung, please mute your mic.
what's up? Next to the money, it's a surprise one. Oh, yeah, no.
All right, because I was just basically waiting for this person to be muted before I continue because the noise will be distracting me. If it's possible, let everyone be muted so that others that are paying attention can really focus. Because this one, I'm not sure she's paying attention. She's not even in a well settled place. All right. So I was talking about reporting the main features, okay? And I really mentioned that while you're reporting for heating in the Australia household, make sure you're also reporting heating in the greenhouse gas emission, okay? As you're reporting water heating, make sure you're doing the same in the greenhouse gas emission. As you're reporting cooling, make sure you're doing the same thing too. As you're reporting refrigeration, make sure you're doing the same thing in the greenhouse gas emission. Very, very important. Now, let's start. So basically, while you're reporting, ensure to use good vocabulary as well too. Use good vocabulary because the examiner will definitely reward you. Okay. Now you can say that it can be observed from both households that heating increased astronomically by 42% and 15 and decreased by 15%. Full stop. So what have I done? I've been able to report heating. Once you're done with that, place a full stop and then you continue. Pick another feature again. Water heating, and make sure that you're switching your vocabulary. Don't report everything the same way. Switch your vocabulary. You can see that the way I'm going to report the second one will be quite different from the way I reported the first one. So, for example, water heating in the average Australian household is recorded as 30%, while in greenhouse gas emission it is slightly increased to 32%. Can you see that? So, okay, someone is writing, said, please, how do you get the reading passage and access my performance? I only have yeah, the PDF was sent to many of you. All right, the PDF was sent to many of you. So what you basically just do is open the PDF. Once you're able to open it, and then you can practice. So in the PDF, you have test 1, test 2, test 3, and test 4. Okay, test 1 has the whole four, which is the whole 4 modules: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Test 2 has the whole 4 modules too: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Test 3 has the whole 4 modules: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And test 4 has the whole 4 modules too. So it is framed like that. All right. I hope I've been able to answer this question. If you haven't received the materials, you can reach out to ACE University, okay, or ACE Edu, and reach out to them. ACE Edu and Osavo Consults. They will send it to you. All right, so let's continue. Let's continue. So you can see that I've been able to report to now heating and water heating, okay? I can pick another one basically. I can say that in both households, or it is evident. You can you can just frame your sentence whichever pattern, but make sure that it is actually reporting what you're seeing. So you can say that it is evident from the pie charts that cooling is drastically low, as seen as 2%, while in as 2% in greenhouse gas emission, and 3%, a slight increase to 3% in greenhouse gas emission. You've reported. Remember, you're not showing a comparison of what cooling is in the first pie chart and what cooling is in the second. You're not showing a comparison. You're basically just saying what you're seeing. You're basically just reporting what you're seeing. If you're done with that, pick another one. Pick another one. You can make sure you tweak your vocabulary. Make sure you tweak your sentence. Look at how I'm going to report this one differently from the way I've been saying other ones. You could possibly say that lighting lighting is okay. You can say the power consumption for lighting is low in an average Australian household, while in greenhouse gas emission it is slightly increased to 8%. Full stop. It's as simple as that. You keep reporting the features. Now, once you're done reporting the features and you notice that your length of words, because remember that on exam day, when you're typing, okay, it will be taking notes. Like there will be word count. As you're typing on exam day, the word count will keep increasing. So when you realize that, oh, you're not up to, or you've not met the target, which is 150 words, then you can now show a comparison between the two pie charts. Then you can now possibly say that in the average Australian household, the power consumption, so what you just need to do is compare with the lowest and to the highest. So obviously, cooling is the lowest for both households. And when you're talking about the highest, heating is the highest in average Australian household, while water heating is the highest in greenhouse gas emission. So if you're comparing, compare both the lowest and the highest. So in that case, you just write in comparison, comma, heating is recorded as the lowest in both households, while the highest were an interchange of heating. And remember, as you're measuring them, you have to put in their percentages. So let's do that again. You have in comparison, comma, cooling is seen or observed as the lowest energy consumption in both households, while the highest are seen as heating being 42% and water heating being 32%. Full stop. So you basically focus on the areas of increase and decrease when you're showing comparison. All right. I hope this is clear for academic. Is as straightforward as this. Basically as straightforward as this. Okay, because today we'll basically be looking at tax 1 writing. By Wednesday, we'll look at tax 2 writing. Okay, we'll look at tax 2 writing. By God's grace, Friday, we'll look at speaking. Okay, we'll look at speaking. We'll start speaking by Friday, basically. So let's see how we go with the planning. So I'm sure that tax 1 is clear, all right, for academic students. Now, if you're a general training student, I would like you to pay attention to the next exam question I'll be sending. That's for general training students, okay? Now, so that we can look at that extensively, just as we did for academic, okay? All right, so I'm sharing my screen now. So if you're a general training student or general training candidate, please pay attention here. Please pay attention. Very, very important. Pay attention. Now, as you can see, in general training, you are meant to write a letter, okay? And let's run through both formal letter and informal letter. So for a formal letter, it's otherwise known as an official letter or a business letter. That's what you call a formal letter. So it's written to people who occupy official positions, such as the president, the governor, the chairman, the manager of a bank, the chairman of a local government, the proprietor of a school, okay, and so many other official positions. Now, there are features on how you write this formal letter, just like the way I shared strategies for academic. I'm also sharing strategies for general training now. There are strategies on how you write a formal letter. I've been able to define formal letter. I've told you people that will write formal letters too. Now let's look at the features. Number one, you don't need to write any addresses. That's number one. You don't need to write any addresses at all because examiners do not need any addresses. Then number two, begin with a salutation. How do you write the salutation of a formal letter? Dear sir, or madam, not ma, madam, and you place a comma. All the initials must begin with a capital letter. D of dear, M of madam, S of sir. They should all begin with a capital letter. And don't use forward slash. Use or, the conjunction or. If you're done with that, the next thing is what? According to IELTS, you don't need title or heading. You don't need it at all. There's no point writing it. Because if you do, you will not be rewarded. There's no additional mark for it. So you can leave it out. You can leave it out. Then the next one is the next one, which is also very, very important, is I hope you're writing it as I'm saying it. The next one is the introduction. Okay, after the title is the introduction. How do you write the introduction of a formal letter? Now, introduction of a formal letter is basically you trying to review your intention for writing. What is your intention for writing? You're revealing it there. For example, you can have, I'm writing to notify your attention about so, 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 and so. Or I'm writing to crave your indulgence about so, 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 and so. So it's basically you trying to tell the receiver of the letter about your intention for writing. You're telling the receiver of the letter your intention for writing. So you can write, I'm writing to request your permission for so, 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 and so. You know, simply state your intention for writing. That's what introduction is. After the introduction, the next one is the body of the letter. Is the body of the letter. Now, listen attentively. For letter writing, both formal and informal letter, examiner will give you points, just as you can see from my screen. Can you see the points? Examiner will definitely give you points. So what do you need to do? Pick the first point, explain it in an extensive paragraph. Okay? Pick the second point, explain it in an extensive paragraph. Pick the third point, explain it in an extensive paragraph. After expressing all these points in an extensive paragraph, and it is not up to 150 words, what do? You can suggest another point. You can bring in another point to support it. Bring in another point to support it so that it will be up to 150 words. Remember, you have 20 minutes to write this particular letter, and your length of word should be at least 150 words. Very, very important. Very, very important. Okay. Now, after the body of the letter, remember that in the body of your letter, you cannot abbreviate. You cannot show contractions. You cannot use slang. So all your words should be written fully. They should be expressed fully. No abbreviation. No contraction. Okay? You should be able to express them fully. Now, after the body of the letter, then you have the complementary clause. This is how you now end the letter. So you can end a formal letter by providing a suggestion. Okay? You can render a recommendation. You can basically summarize the points you previously explained. You can summarize it under the conclusion. That's complementary clause. That's where you have your conclusion. Now, the final part is the subscript. Now, in the subscript, being a formal letter, what you're supposed to use is yours faithfully, yours faithfully, yours faithfully. Remember, the Y of yours in capital letter, then there shouldn't be any apostrophe either before the S of yours or after the S of yours. There shouldn't be any apostrophe at all. Then F for faithfully should be written in small letter. After yours faithfully, place a comma. Okay? And because it's CBT, that's computer based, just simply write signature, or you can leave it blank because you cannot sign. So you have to leave it blank, or you simply write signature. Then underneath where you have signature, write your full name. By full name, I mean your first name. You can decide to use initial for your middle name, and then you write your surname in full. That's what I mean by full name. I hope this is very clear. I hope this is very, very clear. Now, that is for formal letter. Okay. These are the strategies. If you're doing general training, try as much as possible to memorize this structure. Try as much as possible to memorize this strategy for formal letter. Now let's look at informal letter. Okay, let's look at informal letter. Now for informal letter, okay, for informal letter, it is also very important for you to have. For example, this particular question I'm sharing is for informal letter. This particular question I'm sharing is for informal letter. How do you know whether it is a formal letter or an informal letter? Simply by the person you are addressing. The person you are addressing tells you whether it's a formal letter or informal letter. For example, if you're writing a letter to a friend, informal letter. If you're writing a letter to the manager of a bank or manager of a hotel, strictly a formal letter, because managerial positions are for formal letters. For formal letters. Okay. Now, let's look at what is informal letter. Informal letter is otherwise known as a friendly letter, okay, or a personal letter. This is a letter you write to close relations and friends. Okay, right? So close relations and friends. By close relations, I mean your father, your mother, your aunt, your uncle, your brother, your sister. These are people that are close relations. And you can also write to friends too. That's your best friend or a pen friend. You can write to them as well too. Okay. Now, let's look at there are strategies on how to write this informal letter. According to IELTS, there are strategies. What are those strategies? Okay. Now, the first thing is you don't need any address at all. Of course, informal letter will have just one address, but you don't need to write it. Even as a question, it will be stated there. As you can see here, you do not need to write any addresses. You don't need it at all. So what you just need to do is start with a salutation. Start with a salutation. Dear, the first name of the person. Dear Shioma, dear Unle, dear Johnson. Okay? I remember that it must be the first name of the person you're addressing. Johnson is the first name. Ifoma is the first name. Okay? I remember that you must start with a capital letter for D of dear in capital letter, F of I of Ifoma in capital letter, K of Kunle in capital letter, J of Johnson in capital letter too. Very, very important. Don't forget that. Now, if you're done with that, the next thing you need to do, which is very, very important, is there is no title. You don't need any title for informal letter. There's no title, there's no heading. It's not required. The next thing is introduction. I hope you're writing it down. Very, very important. Write it down and don't forget. The next one is introduction. How do you write the introduction of informal letter? Now, the introduction of an informal letter is simply an exchange of pleasantries. You're exchanging pleasantry. Okay, you as the writer and the receiver of the letter, both of you will exchange pleasantries. Okay, that's what it means by introduction. So both of you will exchange pleasantries. So you try as much as possible to ask about the welfare. Okay, okay, how your friend is faring. And imagine it's somebody you've written for a long time. So you can have something like, how are you and how is your family? I hope you're faring well, or I hope you're in good condition of health. Okay, so try as much as possible to inquire, to ask about how the person is doing. All right, look at this question now. You recently received a letter from a friend asking for advice about whether to go to college or to try to get a job. Okay, you think he or she should get a job. All right, now being someone that you've seen for a very long time, try to express yourself, inquire, ask about this person. Okay, it has been long. I wrote to you. I hope you're good. I hope you're fine. Okay, okay, how is things over there? So try as much as possible to reach out and hear from this person. So that's basically what the introduction is. Exchange of pleasantries between you and the receiver of the letter. You as the writer, you're exchanging pleasantry with the receiver of the letter. Very, very important. Then the next thing again, which is also very important in the letter writing, is the body of the letter. Like I usually mention, for letter writing, you will definitely be giving points. Trust me. Even on exam day, you'll be giving points. Like you'll be giving points. Examiner will give you points, just as you can see here. So all you have to do basically is what? Pick each point, explain it in a paragraph. Pick another point, explain it in a paragraph. Pick the third point, explain it in a paragraph. All right. Now, for the fact that it is informal letter, I'll still advise you to express your words in full. Express it in full. Don't use abbreviation, don't use contractions. But this is an English exam. If you make any error, you'll be penalized. Now, if after using these 3 points and you feel that you haven't written up to 150 words, you can bring in your own personal points to add to this so that you'll be able to write up to 150 words. All right. And then how do you conclude an informal letter? You can conclude an informal letter by simply you know creating a farewell greeting. Just render a farewell greeting. That's the easiest way to conclude an informal letter. Okay, that's the best way to conclude an informal letter. Just try as much as possible to give a farewell greeting. And how do you do that? By giving a farewell greeting, you can write, please extend my greetings to every members of the family. Okay, or you can say my regards to every members of the family, or you can say, same you well to Junior and his father. I wish to visit next week. You can use any of these parameter. Okay, it works. Then once you're done, the subscripts, the subscript is actually you using yours sincerely. It's fine. Yours sincerely is okay. You don't need to sign. Just yours sincerely. So Y of yours in capital letter. Y of yours in capital letter. All right. And there should not be any apostrophe either before the S of yours or after the S of yours. There shouldn't be any form of apostrophe. Then sincerely, S in small letter. After you're done writing sincerely, place a comma and write just your first name. You as the writer, place your first name. Just your first name. You don't need full name at all. Just your first name. All right. So these are basically what is expected of you for tax one. Like I said, so, on Wednesday, because there won't be class tomorrow, on Wednesday, we'll look at tax two in detail, just the way we have looked at tax one in detail. We'll look at tax two in detail. All right. So I believe that this is very clear. Okay. I hope it is very, very clear to us. So at those points, I'll take questions. I'll take questions. So if you have any question, you can just type it and then send to the comment box. I will see it and I will read it. So I'm waiting for questions. Thank you. I'm waiting for your questions. If you don't have questions, it means that everything I've explained so far from the very beginning is clear to you. All right, so I have a question from Chidios. They say, all right, thanks for the class, sir. Please, while writing an essay, do corrections reduce marks? Obviously, it does. Even at WAEC level, when the lecturers are marking or when the teachers are marking, when there's an error, it will definitely reduce the mark. It will definitely reduce the mark. So that's the answer is yes, it will reduce marks. So just try as much as possible to avoid every possible errors. So when I get to that, I will explain in detail tax two. So we're doing tax two on Wednesday, by God's grace. All right. But try as much as possible to avoid anything that will bring about errors. You understand? Try as much as possible to avoid it. Okay. Don't worry, I'm gonna guide you on what to do. Okay. So I have another question. Oh, sorry, I have another message coming. And then the message is Madam Chukudi, thank you so much, sir, for an impactful section. Please, how can I detail my writing? Okay, yeah. So the best way to detail is the same way I'm teaching. Make sure you're taking good notes, okay? And then if there's something you don't understand, just ask me because um after Wednesday class, I will expect us to start. I will expect us to start the practice. That's the writing practice. I will expect us to start because once I'm done with a particular module, I expect us to start the practice immediately. I'm expecting more questions. More questions. We're saying so one shouldn't do a correction on wrong answers. No, you won't see your script. You won't see it. It's just advisable once you're done writing on exam day, before you submit or before you get to 1 hour, okay? Make sure you do your proofreading. It's called proofreading. So while you're proofreading, okay, meaning while you're going through your write-up, make sure you do all the necessary corrections. Make sure you do the necessary corrections to adjust everything you need to adjust while you're writing. Do all the necessary corrections. They are very important. So it's better you correct it yourself than the examiner helping you to correct. It's better you review your writing yourself than examiner help you. Okay, someone is asking, um, I'm coming to your question. Let me read this. Okay, how will you know you have written the 150 words, or can one go above the stated instruction? Yes, I mentioned it. So while you're typing, okay, there's going to be a word count beside. You understand? There's going to be a word count. So as you're typing, there's a word count. That's why you can easily know when you've gotten up to 150. Okay, you can actually exceed 150, but remember not to exceed 180. All right. I mentioned it much earlier. Remember not to exceed 180, even if you exceed 150. Okay. Chidi just said, so I heard that when you do a correction, it gives a -1. How does it give a -1? If you're typing and once you're done with tax one and tax two, it's very important you go through your writing. So once you go through your writing, you're able to make corrections yourself. Because while you're typing very fast, you're bound to make mistakes. You're bound to make errors. So when you finish typing tax one and tax two, all you just simply have to do is what? Take your time, read through it very well. And most especially, read it like an examiner. Read it as if you're the one grading the paper. You know, read it as if you're the one grading the paper is very important so that you're able to see the errors yourself. All right. Yes, thank you too. Any further question? Any further question? No, there's no autocorrect. There's nothing like autocorrect. You won't see any autocorrect. If you make this an English exam, so why should there be autocorrect? It's an English exam, so you're not expected to make if you make any mistake in spelling, you'll be penalized, obviously. Any error you commit in IELTS is half mark deducted, whether in spelling, whether in punctuation mark, whether in sentence construction, you know, whether in tenses, to be deducted. Don't worry, when we get to tax two, we'll really talk about this. I'm ready to ask you based on what I've taught you on tax one. When we get to tax two, then all of these ones will matter. All right. I think that's all for the questions. Thanks all for questions. All right, so we'll meet on Wednesday. Then on Wednesday we'll be able to look at yes, thank you so much too. So on Wednesday we'll be able to look at tax two in detail, just as we looked at tax one. And like I keep saying, ensure you're writing it down so that whenever you're free, you can go back to it again. Because what I'm giving you is beyond a free class. All right. All right. Take good care of yourself. You have a good night rest. Bye bye.
Bye.
All right. Good night.